What's the point of signing a 7-time world champion if you're going to ignore everything he can contribute off the court? The signing of Lewis Hamilton for Ferrari generated a wave of unprecedented expectations. It wasn't just the transfer of a 7-time world champion, it was the real possibility of a new renaissance in Maranello. But what appeared to be a historic alliance between talent and legacy has begun to unravel from its deepest roots, not on the track but in the technical meeting room. What many did not see coming is that the real conflict between Hamilton and Ferrari would not be due to a lack of immediate results, something acceptable in an adaptation process, but rather due to a structural and ideological difference. At Mercedes, Hamilton became a key figure not only in driving, but also in technical development. His way of working was based on a constant flow of information with the engineers, in meetings where his analysis directly influenced key decisions about the setup, the design of aerodynamic elements, and the evolution of the car throughout the season. He was an integral figure in the team's ecosystem. This way of working, however, collides head-on with Ferrari's philosophy. In Maranello, the technical hierarchy is rigidly established. Pilots can have their say, but they rarely influence. And when they try, as in the case of Sebastian Vettel a few years ago, they end up frustrated when they see their recommendations shelved without having any real impact. Maurizio Arrivabene, former team boss, not only confirmed it but publicly trivialized it. He compared Hamilton's extensive technical reports with Vettel's and said both were virtually useless. Not because they lacked quality, but because the system is not designed to process them or act on them. The phrase that has resonated the most in this controversy is a dry but revealing sentence: pilots do not have to be engineers. In any other modern Formula One context, this statement would be archaic. Today, the best teams win thanks to a fluid collaboration between driver and engineering. Max Verstappen, Fernando Alonso, Lando Norris, even rookies like Oscar Piastri, are constantly involved in the technical development of their cars. It is not a fashion, it is a necessity. But Ferrari, for reasons ranging from institutional pride to resistance to change, continues to operate under a top-down model, where the driver is just that, an executor, not a collaborator. This first major clash between two philosophies, one based on horizontal collaboration and the other on vertical authority, is more than a difference in styles. It's the reason why Ferrari, time and again, seems unable to take advantage of external talent when it brings it in. History seems to repeat itself, and the most worrying thing is that, if there is no structural change, not even Lewis Hamilton will be able to break this cycle. And that leads us to ask ourselves, what's the point of having the best driver if you're not going to let him help you improve the car? When a team makes a mistake, it can be a fluke. When you repeat it year after year with different drivers, engineers, leaders, and circumstances, it stops being an accident and becomes a dysfunctional structure. That's what happens at Ferrari. The problem with Hamilton is not new. It is the same pattern that has accompanied this team for more than a decade. And the most worrying thing is not that it has happened again. The most worrying thing is that at Ferrari they seem to have learned absolutely nothing. During the Vettel era, the team experienced an almost identical situation. Sebastian arrived with extraordinary technical background. Not only was he a driver with 4 world titles, but he was also a detail obsessive, capable of detecting minimal differences in the car's behavior with just a couple of laps. During his time at Red Bull, he had been a key player in the development of the RB7, RB8 and RB9, and was expected to do the same at Ferrari. But their enthusiasm collided head-on with a closed, hierarchical and change-resistant system. Vettel wrote very long reports, held meetings with engineers, proposed adjustments, shared comparisons with telemetry. And like Hamilton today, he found a technical culture that received his ideas with courtesy, but without any intention of implementing them. Everything remained in bureaucratic limbo. The car continued to evolve according to Maranello's pre-established schedule, and not according to the feedback of the driver who drove it each weekend. That was not a collaboration, it was a simulation of openness to dialogue. Now, years later, the same cycle is repeating itself with Hamilton. A driver with a very clear vision of the car he needs, with the experience of having worked in a highly effective structure like Mercedes, arrives with new ideas and specific proposals, and finds the same walls. Ferrari listens but does not change. He accepts criticism but does not internalize it. And in the end, he makes the same mistakes again. This dynamic creates a toxic environment of silent frustration. The pilot begins to notice that his contributions are not taken into account. That it doesn't matter how much time you spend in the factory, how many meetings you have with engineers, or how much data you deliver after a race. The car continues its course, designed by people who don't leave the wind tunnel or step into the paddock on rainy days. The disconnection between the real car and the internal perception of Ferrari becomes an abyss. But this institutional blockade has tangible consequences on the track. In the current season, Ferrari has suffered from late technical decisions, updates that don't work as expected, and a chronic inability to react in real time to rule changes or development trends that other teams quickly adopt. McLaren, for example, has shown admirable agility in adapting its car based on feedback from its drivers. Red Bull, despite its internal conflicts, maintains a solid technical synergy. Even Mercedes, with a complicated car, listens to its racers more than Ferrari. So the question is simple: how many times does Ferrari need to stumble over the same stone to start building a different path? How many world champions must pass through their ranks without success before someone in Maranello says, "This is not working"? The SF25 is not just a slow car. It's a bad car. From its first lap in pre-season, Ferrari knew it had a problem. But instead of addressing it from the root, they opted for palliative solutions, marginal adjustments and minor tweaks to a platform that from day one showed unmistakable signs of being conceptually compromised. And that, in modern Formula One, is a competitive death sentence. The big defect of the SF25 is not a poorly designed front wing, nor an inefficient suspension. It is at the very heart of its aerodynamic architecture. It suffers from ride height hypersensitivity, meaning that any millimeter of variation in the chassis causes a drastic alteration in downforce. And that makes it an impossible car to configure in a stable way. You can adjust it for one curve, but you will lose all balance in another. You can optimize it for qualifying, but it falls apart in race pace. This era could have been Ferrari's great redemption story. The perfect narrative. The most legendary team in history rediscovering glory with the most successful driver of all time. But that story never began. Because for true transformation to occur, it takes more than a big name. It takes a willingness to change from within. And that will, today, simply does not exist at Ferrari. The car doesn't work. The structure does not respond. The pilot cannot influence. And the leadership doesn't listen. That is the perfect storm that turns a golden opportunity into another dark page in the book of disappointments that Ferrari has been writing for more than a decade. Maybe it's not too late yet. Maybe. But while other teams act, Ferrari hesitates. While others evolve, Ferrari clings to the past. And in modern Formula One, that's the closest thing to going backwards at full speed. After everything we have seen and analyzed, the question is inevitable. Does Ferrari really have the will to change? Are you willing to leave behind your culture of rigidity, immovable hierarchies and internal decisions that are impermeable to external talent? Or are we witnessing, once again, the waste of a legendary driver trapped in a structure that does not evolve? Lewis Hamilton is not eternal. No pilot is. And every race he runs without a competitive car is a missed opportunity not only for him, but for the history of the sport itself. Ferrari had in its hands the possibility of building an epic narrative, one of those that transcends generations. A champion coming to rescue the most legendary team, returning it to the top. And instead, we are seeing déjà vu, a painful repetition of what happened with Alonso, with Vettel, and now with Hamilton. But I don't want this reflection to remain only in what has been narrated. I want to know what you think. Do you think Ferrari has any real chance of turning this situation around? Can Hamilton change from within a culture that has rejected transformation time and time again? Or have we all simply fallen into the trap of romanticism, believing that the weight of the Ferrari name and the talent of a champion were enough to win in modern Formula One? Thanks for being there. Thank you for thinking with us. And now it's your turn to speak. Will Ferrari change or fail again? Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.